Heave high, ho, the best man in Ottawa was Mufferaw Joe, Mufferaw Joe. Big Joe Mufferaw paddled into Mattawa all the way from Ottawa in just one day. Hey, hey.
How's it going, eh? Welcome back to a brand new episode of The Eponymous. How's it going, eh? We just had a big shooting in Orlando recently, and it's interesting seeing the American take on things. The two ends of the spectrum are the Daily News, where they go, thanks, NRA. And they also go, this one's a doozy, NRA's sick jihad. You see, this is a thing the left does. I saw Sally Cohen do this. She calls the people who do these kind of things the Muslim right. So all you do, it's like a wordplay game. You just take the team that you dislike and you attach it to the bad guys, and now your team, the team you hate, is the bad guys. So you hate the right wing, Muslims do a bad thing, it's the Muslim right. You hate the NRA, there's a jihad going on, it's the NRA jihad. Seems convenient, right? Whew. Now, the more sane side of the spectrum isn't afraid to mince words and says Islamic terrorist. ISIS versus U.S. Like, that is so tame, and it's considered controversial. If you wore this as a T-shirt in New York, you'd get looks. It would be troublesome to do. Just to say, imagine in 1942, Nazis versus U.S. Totally normal. Boring even, redundant. They'd have to say something better like, when you ride alone, you ride with Hitler. That's more fun. But what a lot of these guys keep doing is they talk about Canada all the time. And they say, look up in Canada. They say that the guns are registered there, and you don't see mass shootings. You see plenty of mass shootings in Canada. And the great thing about Canada is it's a canary in a coal mine for America. And you can often go up there and see these so-called experiments. I wish they would do it more often. Like they say, oh, illegal immigrants are doing jobs that Americans won't do. Can you imagine a world without Mexicans? Yeah, I can. It's called Canada. Well, who does the jobs up there with no Mexicans? They're called teenagers. They're called me. Teenagers clean pools. Teenagers mow lawns. Teenagers work at gas stations. And you know what that does? That develops them an economic libido. Now they know how to work, so when they become grown-ups, they're familiar with the value of a dollar, the value of hard work. Here in America, they don't do those jobs, so they end up sitting on the mommy's couch till they're 26. Can you imagine living with baby boomers you don't have to for an extra 8 years? Don't you like getting laid? Don't you like going out? Anyway, we see the same thing with the gun laws. Canada had gun laws. They had a thing where you had to register guns. Eventually they had to abandon it because it took infinite hours and it didn't lead to one crime being solved. You keep wanting to punish the people that follow the rules. There's so much going on with Islamic shootings in America. It says so much about our hatred of ourselves. It says so much about our fear of political incorrectness. It says so much about our ignorance about guns. And it says so much about our ignorance about Canada. About Canada. Anyway, we'll be discussing this with John Lott, who is the author of one of my favorite books, More Guns, Less Crime. And you can check him out at crimeresearch.org. And then we'll be keeping it light with a comedian that I adore named Ian Bagg. We'll be just talking with him about jobs, Canadian jobs that he's had, and the accent and how that spans from coast to coast, what it's like being a Western Canadian. He's way out there from BC, and he's now touring America as a comic, but he still stays to his Canadian roots. In fact, he's sort of known as the hoser comic here in America. And then we'll take some calls.
Looking for the perfect gift? Did you know TheRebel.media has a store? Make a statement with a t-shirt. Have your morning coffee in a Fearless Travel coffee mug. There's even an Ezra Levant bobblehead. It's a one-stop shop for the perfect gift. And don't forget to pick up something for yourself. Go to TheRebel.media/store to find out more.
Heave high, ho.
So we just had a big shooting in Orlando, and the common Canadian defense is, and Americans use this too, they say, Well, they don't have automatic rifles up in Canada, and they don't have mass shootings. Ergo, we need to have the same gun laws that Canada has.
Well, again, these shootings never involve machine guns. They involve guns that are essentially hunting rifles. They have hunting rifles in Canada. They actually have a fair number of hunting rifles in Canada. And, it's Canada also has its mass public shootings. We're just talking about the New Brunswick case in 2014. They don't have as many as the United States, but they have a fair number. Europe has actually more casualties from mass public shootings during the Obama administration than the United States or Europe does than the United States does.
Oh, yeah, that was on crimeresearch.org. You pointed out that over Obama's entire presidency, there was less casualties than there was in 1 year in Paris.
Right, in the United States, right, over the entire time, even including the attack this weekend, we've had fewer casualties in the United States than they've had over in 1 year in France. So, I mean, it's just from these mass public shootings. And but my guess is few people would know that. Most people won't know that 3 of the 4 worst K-12 shootings, for example, have occurred in Europe.
Wow.
2 of those have occurred in Germany. Mass public shootings occur frequently in Europe. They don't get the news coverage that they do in the United States. So the president, when he goes and claims that the United States is unique among all countries or unique in terms of developed countries, he's simply wrong. We've also done work on mass public shootings around the world. And in that case, I looked at larger shootings where there's 15 or more people killed. And the reason why I do is that in places like Africa or parts of South America or parts of Asia, killings are so frequent that there's no way you're going to find news stories about a run-of-the-mill 4 people being killed.
Wow.
And so, you find cases in Africa where you'll have 30 people killed, and there'll be 1 news story on it. And, just because there are parts of Africa where the murder rate is like 10 times higher than it is in the United States. And so they just don't give coverage to all the killings.
Now, one thing, sorry to interrupt, but one thing they've been pushing for in America is some sort of serial number ID thing where you could trace a gun back. But we tried that in Canada, and didn't we have to just stop doing it because it was so expensive and it didn't lead to 1 arrest?
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, Canada's had registration license of handguns since the 30s. And then for about 15 years, more recently, you tried registration licensing of long guns. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police did a report to Parliament when they got rid of the long gun registry, where they indicated they could not point to one single crime that the registration process had let them solve that they wouldn't have solved otherwise. And the same has been true in the United States, whether it's Hawaii or whether it's Chicago or whether it's Washington, D.C., where the police say the same thing. Look, in theory, if a gun is left at a crime scene and it's registered to the person who committed the crime, then you can go and trace it back to the person who committed the crime. First of all, crime guns are very rarely left at the crime scene. In the few cases they are left at the crime scene, it's because the criminal's either been wounded or killed. And in the few cases they're left there, they're almost never registered. And in the couple cases that they are registered, they're never registered to the guy who committed the crime.
Right.
And so...
Or the guy is shot and murdered on the scene, so we don't need to research anything.
Right. I testified in Hawaii a decade ago when they were considering revising their registration licensing rules. And I had worked with some of the state legislators, and I had told them 2 questions to kind of tell the Honolulu police chief before he testified. And one of the questions was, how many crimes that they had solved. I mean, they've had this since 1960 in Hawaii. It's an island nation. You would think an ideal experiment for them.
Yep.
And the second thing is how much time it took each year to administer the program. The police chief said he could not identify one single crime that they had solved. And the second thing was he said it took about 50,000 hours of police time each year to go and administer the program. And the question you have to ask yourself is, we know regular policing works. How many crimes could you have solved if you had let the police spend that 50,000 hours of time doing regular policing work?
Of course.
Instead, we've had them have to waste time doing something that we know doesn't work.
That is just one small story, but I feel like it's a microcosm of the big picture here, where we're directing all our time and energy on legal people, mostly white people, and not directing our energy at criminals. Folks at home, check out crimeresearch.org. John, we love having you as a guest.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Take care.
Heave-hi-ho.
Howdy, folks. How's it going, eh? We're here with Ian Bagg.
Hey!
Ian's from
Terrace, British Columbia.
Terrace, British Columbia?
Yes.
That's north, eh?
That is north. What you do is you go to Vancouver, right? You drive about 9 hours north of Prince George. Take a left. Go all the way to the ocean. Come back an hour. Ask for Gary and Robin.
What's that like up there? It must all be logging.
It's logging, fishing, and now they want to put an oil thing through it. An oil well. I don't know, not an oil well. An oil pipeline right through town.
That sounds great.
Sounds safe.
No, I'm all for it.
You're all for the oil?
Yeah. Well, it's just a pipeline. The Arctic beaver owl will be fine.
It's going to be fine.
Now,
it's gonna be
Northern
it'll be a little
Ontario-
greasy, but it's going to be fine.
Northern Ontario is a living hell. With this, the spring is like an hour and a half, and then the summer is molten lava, and the winter is unspeakably cold. But I bet on the coast, it's kind of nice up there.
It's great up there. I remember the first time I went to Toronto in the summer. I think I was about 12 or something like that. I was like, oh my God, the sun's too close to the earth, and nobody knows, because I'd never experienced humidity before, and it was just stupid.
God, your childhood must have been bucolic.
It
All those
was.
trees and the
It's a lot of running.
sunsets.
No pants.
What was your first job?
My first job, I worked at the Terrace Arena. I was a rink rat.
Rink rat.
Oh, yes. I told people to go the other way every once an hour. Turn it around.
That was probably the biggest social event in your town, was the local hockey game.
Yeah, the local hockey game was big times. But my second job, I worked in a mine assisting an explosives engineer setting things up. It was awesome.
I'm pretty sure that's the coolest job in the world.
I was 18, and it was awesome. We just blew up all the day long. I remember seeing animals and just yelling at them, "You gotta get out of here!" Move. Yeah, and they never move. You just see them fly by.
Well, they learned the hard way.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you live in L.A.
I live in Long Beach, California.
You're in the Long Beach, You're in the TV industry now. What do you miss about the old ways? What do you miss about the Canucks?
About the old Canadians? I miss shreddies.
Shreddies.
Yeah, we don't get shreddies down here. I really miss shreddies.
It is an integral part of a nutritious breakfast.
The way they soak the milk up like no other cereal is just
No cereal can hold a candle to shreddies.
And it can probably hold a candle in a shreddy, to be honest with you. That's how much it can soak. It soaks up. Oh, and
the candle would vanish.
Yeah, Tim Hortons, I miss that. And I miss a good old-fashioned just hating America.
Yeah, that was fun.
When people would, those Americans come up here and they don't know the difference between kilometers and miles.
Man, they don't have craft dinner.
I remember the best one was a drunken Indian guy lying on a dock. And we were fishing. And where are you guys from? And one guy said, America. America, you come up here and you take our women. And then he fell back asleep.
Ian, thanks for coming to the show.
Hey, we're happy, brother. Wait on.
We've heard you loud and clear. You can't get enough Canadian conservative news and opinion. Why not check out our blog? It's all your favorite conservative bloggers together on a page called The Megaphone. Go to TheRebel.media/TheMegaphone or click on the Megaphone menu from our main page to check it out.
heave hi, ho.
Hey, Sean from California, are you there, sir?
Is this Gavin?
Yes, it is.
Holy
Exciting, huh?
yeah. How's it going?
It's going good. I want to keep this Canadian now. This is a Canadian show. How's it going, eh?
How's it going? Hey.
All right, let's speed it up here. What's your question?
Okay, sorry. Has your point of views ever gotten you into a life-threatening situation? Because you know how hostile the left can be. Have you ever been out in a public scene where they, knowing your views, have harmed you in any sort of way, physically?
Nope. When I lived in Ottawa, we used to fight Nazis, or even just being a punk rocker meant Nazis were going to beat you up. And I think a lot of people don't get with fights, especially when you're five guys kicking the crap out of a dude, you can just kick the guy the wrong way and he's dead. You know, Jean Chrétien had that weird face from a stroke. You cut someone and you lacerate the wrong facial muscle, you're going to be Jean Chrétien for the rest of your life. Now, with the skinheads, they were kicking me. This is in Ottawa by the Rideau, on Rideau Street. They're kicking me, and I go, oh my God, my back, you broke my back. Because I thought they'd stop, right? That's paralysis. They didn't stop, and I realized these guys are so dumb that they don't know that a broken back is bad. They think it's like a broken arm or something. But thanks for calling, buddy. I like you more than a friend. Let's talk to Nick in Kentucky. Nick, are you there?
Yes, Gavin, I'm here.
Now, you're a Southerner. I'm wagering that your question does not involve the true North, strong and free. Is that correct?
Actually, it kind of does.
Okay. What's your tenuous link to Canada?
I just wanted to know, are the better in Canada, or has socialism completely screwed them up?
That's a great question. Thank you very much for asking. I'll deal with that right now. Thanks for calling. I'll hang up on you. Yes, in Montreal, they're the filles du roi, who came from King Louis XIV. These were sassy broads that were considered too raucous, too rude, too sexy. A lot of them were prostitutes for the king, for France, and he shipped them off to Quebec to mate with the soldiers, because when we sent the soldiers there to beat up the Indians, they were left chickless. That made for some hot chicks, and then they started breeding with the Indians, who, no matter what you say about Indians, you got to admit, especially 400 years ago, they were some real lookers. So you got the sort of, I don't know if this is conveying it, but the brown skin and the beautiful lips and the sort of slightly epicanthic foldy eyes. Is that doing it? So Montreal is to beat the band. Quebec, best chicks in the world. Sometimes actually too good. Sex positive to a fault. Ontario, Ottawa is great because they're French, but when you get to Toronto, no. Some of the most sexless women in the world live in Toronto. In fact, I swore it off in my single days as a sex-free zone. I don't know why. It's sort of like Hong Kong, I guess. It's a very affluent, business-friendly, it's the Hong Kong of Canada, and that isn't good for libidos. I don't know why. Toronto women, the worst women in the world as far as sex goes. I can't speak on the east, and in the middle, I'm sure they're great. And then Vancouver, very groovy, very good. It's sort of what normal English-speaking women would be in Toronto if they hadn't been desexified by whatever desexifies people, probably feminism and political correctness. So Vancouver and Montreal is the answer to your question, sir. Let's talk to Lance in Ohio. Lance, are you there?
Hey there, bud.
How's it going, eh?
Hey, bud. I'm from the States, and I was watching this show on A&E about Alaskan state troopers, and they had these snow machines, right?
Yeah?
And this guy was up in the mountains, and he got all lost, and they had to get him with a helicopter. What happens up there in the Great White North in Canada, eh?
Well, see, that's the thing a lot of people don't get about the Great White North, and especially outside of the city, right? You go, wait a minute. It's 4 p.m. And when I've spent some time up there in northern Quebec, I'd go, wait a minute. It got dark out. I had dinner. I watched a movie. I read a book. It's still 8 p.m. What the hell do you do all night? And the answer is skidoos. You get a nice big headlamp on that sucker, and there's a whole other world there of just skidooing. It's like motocross riding. You go over mountains. There's all kinds of trails, private ones you shouldn't be on, and public ones. You can go all over the place for hours and hours, and it is one of the funnest things you'll ever do.
Nice. Yeah, but like, are there like helicopter patrols all the way up there? Like, if you get lost, or like have you have those GPS things to like press a button and like SOS?
Not to my knowledge. It's not like a boat where you legally have to have a GPS on you at all times, but you'd be a complete idiot to be going out there alone without at least a cell phone. That doesn't really happen that often. Usually when you go skidooing, you're not forging new ground. You're going on trails that are well established. I wouldn't recommend it going out there. Actually, you know what's funny? I'm getting cold just talking about this. Just the idea. Can you imagine? It's 11 p.m. in the middle of Ukta-Yuktuk, and it's just blackness, and then that weird like... What a petrifying way to die. Thanks for calling, buddy. Yeah. You know, humans adapt. Westerners adapt. We figured out fun things to do. The Western world in general is very tenacious when it comes to fun. And what did we do when we first came here? We didn't have good water. Those who were not right next to the Hudson Bay or some nice little Rideau River didn't have anything to drink, so we drank booze. And that became very fun. I think an oft overlooked part of Canadian history is how incredibly drunk everyone was. I mean, even kids drank beer. There was no water to drink. Of course, that's when we were Britain. But yeah, the middle of nowhere sounds scary, sounds barren, sounds like a wasteland, and then meow, some guy rips by in a Bombardier Skidoo. Stacy from Vegas, are you there?
Hello. Yes, I'm here.
How are you doing? How's it going, eh?
Oh, it's going great, eh?
Right on.
I'm not from Canada, so I hope my A is okay.
Yeah, your A is great. You don't have AIDS.
Oh.
What's it like there now? It's the opposite of Canada in many ways, right? What do you get up to, 140 degrees Fahrenheit?
Yeah, it was like 108 yesterday. I don't know what it's going to get up to today, but yeah, it gets pretty hot here.
What's that in Celsius? That must be up there in the, I don't know, 50s and 60s? Look that up, Rat. What'd you say, 108?
Yeah, it was 108 yesterday. I think it was.
Tabernouche, they show.
I tend to stay in during those hours. I'm up early to walk the dog, and then I stay up at night.
Yeah, see, that's what people don't get about the boiling hot. It's the same as the freezing cold. Like in Alberta, when you're going out in the winter, you run outside screaming your head off, turn the car on, get it going, go back inside and let the car warm up, so then you drive it. And in Texas and Las Vegas, you run out screaming your head off, get the AC going, the seats are molten lava, and then you come back later when the car's ready to rock.
Thank God for auto start.
Thank God for auto start, eh? So what can I do you for?
I actually just thought this was hilarious. I looked on Twitter, and apparently Quentin Tarantino is casting a new movie. And the casting notice actually says, casting whores for Quentin Tarantino project. And it says Caucasian, non-union females, 18 to 35. And people are upset about this. They're like, I can't believe. It's like, well, whores exist, and he needs them for his movie. I mean, I don't understand why people are upset about this.
And, you know, that is the war. Political correctness is really a war not just on fun and lower classes not knowing the latest rules, but it's also a war on the English language. If he had said sex workers or prostitutes, and by the way, in Canada, we call them hooers, then it would have come across as this could be an empowering story about a young woman who gets her life back together. So that's misleading. No, he wants hooers. He wants complete, dirty, human garbage, crackhead whores. He doesn't want them to have any misgivings. So he makes that clear in the advertisement, and now we're offended. He didn't say anything good or bad, by the way, about whores. There's no judgment there. It's just, this is the character I need to do my art.
Yeah, I know. He wasn't, doing a casting for nasty whores. It was just whores.
Here's a question, though.
This is hilarious.
Could you put it a casting call saying, doing a movie, looking for...
Well, Quentin Tarantino would be the one to put out that casting.
Yes, if anyone is going to do that, it's going to be him. But that's a different situation because that term is such a bad swear word. It's sort of like where there's no real definition attached to it. It's just like a ear-singeingly bad word. Hooer, on the other hand, has a lot of context. Thanks for calling. Let's go to our next call here. Chris from Virginia, are you there?
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
You're not going to... This better be Canadian, eh? This is a Canadian show.
This is a Canadian show, eh?
Yes.
The thing that I would really like you to talk about that I feel like isn't talked about nearly enough is the regressive left is talked about quite a lot. But I feel like what isn't talked about nearly enough is the victims, the actual victims of the regressive left. The black man that walked into Milo's speech not too long ago, blowing a whistle. These people that stormed the stage of his talk, they are truly the victims of social justice, of the regressive left. And I think it's terrible that these things aren't talked about more. These people are destroying lives. They're destroying futures. They are destroying black people's lives by teaching them that they are nothing more than subhuman monkeys that can't compete, that can't possibly compete with white people. Anything that you want to achieve in your life, you can't possibly achieve because of the evil white man.
Yes. I totally agree. By the way, you say destroying weird. Is that normal for your region of North America? Destroying?
Honestly, I don't know.
Destroying. That's what's frustrating, by the way, about being a non-liberal and seeing the black community in all of the Western world, the visible minority community, get magnetized, get sucked into the far left because you go, nothing is worse for you. When you give single moms welfare, you're incentivizing singlehood. You're incentivizing a woman to get rid of her man. You are paying to fracture the family. And as we've learned time and time again, nothing is worse for a child than not having a kid. And yes, that applies to divorce. That is really hard on a kid. And being the child of a single mom sucks. What the government is doing with welfare right now is rewarding that behavior. Welfare also sucks. And you see this with natives. You see this with Indians up in Canada. The more welfare they get, the less happy they are because humans are not designed to be rewarded for nothing. There's nothing crueler than welfare because we have evolved to derive pleasure from hard work. We've evolved to reward ourselves with endorphins when we've earned it. When you haven't earned it, it's like an empty calorie. And again, and this applies to everything, like even the gun laws. The people who are hurt by gun laws the most are the ones in the hood, the dads who stuck around with their family and want to be armed. Right now, only the bad guys have guns. But a black father in the ghetto can't defend himself legally because the government wants to protect him from something. It's almost every scenario you can think of.
That's my point. These people that claim to be for the minorities, they claim to stand up for the minorities. They are actively hurting them. The Black Lives Matter retards that are claiming to help black communities are actively trying to destroy them by saying cops do not understand black community politics or whatever the hell you want to call it. They are actively trying to destroy black communities by saying that the police should not be involved in them. This is incredibly, incredibly harmful to black.
I couldn't agree more.
Black communities need more policing. They need the thugs, the garbage removed from their communities.
Yeah.
Why do you think black people struggle to get jobs in in black communities.
Struggle.
Because they have thugs, they have gangs. Who wants to open a business?
I agree. I couldn't agree more, sir. And you see that with stop and frisk, too. The New York started enforcing stop and frisk, and it made all the black neighborhoods safer. Now that de Blasio's taken away, the first people who suffer are the impoverished, dangerous East New York communities. The Upper West Side doesn't really care how much you stop and frisk. Their crime rate's going to be zero no matter what you do. But it really is amazing. Thanks for calling, by the way. It really is amazing how many facets of black life the liberal plague infects. Like affirmative action. We're going to get these guys into Harvard and Yale. Studies have shown that when you take someone and you put them in an Ivy League school and they didn't deserve it, right? They're in over their head, just like if I took algebra, which I did, and I was in over my head, so I dropped out. I never took math again. They don't tend to drop out and go back down to a lower level college that they normally would have gone into. They drop out entirely. So you took someone who was on a path to a normal secondary education, the one most of us do, you catapulted him up into Ivy League, he's in over his head, he drops out completely. So your stupid communist policy just ripped some poor black geezer out of the educational system. Stop meddling, okay? Slavery's over. Black people are free. We don't want to meddle with their lives anymore. Let them be free. And yes, that includes these so-called favors the left keeps rewarding them with social services and food stamps and affirmative action. Nothing could be worse for a person. In fact, my family's Indian, and they all get a check when they graduate high school. I dread the check my kids are going to get because it's huge. And this is in their formative years when they're 18, they're going to get a massive check. And I have no say in it, right? I can't just take it from them. And I've talked to other Indians in the tribe and they go, I'll tell you what, the worst thing that ever happened to me was that check I got when I graduated high school. Because they end up not working for at least a year. And with interest, it keeps going up. So, God, no, the problem keeps getting worse. Charity doesn't work. All right, let's talk to Alan. Alan in Maryland?
No, I'm in Massachusetts. What's up, baby? Uhuru!
Uhuru!
Hey, good to hear from you, man. I made a 2-minute audio pitch to Compound Media as well as a 10-minute formal pitch. I'm getting after it. America's back.
You're the guerrilla radio guy. I've heard of you.
Yeah, man. I wrote, yesterday I wrote top 5 reasons to check out the Gavin McInnes Show, Volume 2.
That's wonderful. I appreciate that very much. But and this is misleading because a lot of my Twitter followers know me through the Gavin McInnes Show. But this is a Canadian show, eh?
Oh, okay. I want to make a cool point.
Okay.
About Canada.
It's pronounced Canada.
You know how you use the term hoser?
Yeah?
Dude, I get it because I'm from a hoser area in Massachusetts, actually. Hoser, all that means is like cold, rural, white person, right? That's all it means.
It's the Canadian redneck, but the actual etymology of the term is when the dads would have a hockey rink in the backyard, the way you make a hockey rink is you just get the hose on. I don't know how you get it unfrozen. I guess the hose was inside the house. You take it outside, you screw it on, you turn it on full blast, and you built with the snowbank, you've built sort of walls, and then you just hose her down. Hose, hose, hose. And then the kid's playing it for a while, maybe it melts a bit. You have to keep hosing it throughout the year. So these dads were called hosers. And if you love hockey and you're a good dad and you can't afford to take the kids to the rink every time they want to skate, you're likely a hoser. I should do a Jeff Foxworthy thing. You might be a hoser if. That's a good idea.
Wow, did you play hockey?
Sure did, buddy.
Dude, that's fascinating because my dad was a hockey player, but he knew that I wasn't a hockey player because I played when I was young. So I ended up playing basketball and football. One more thing.
This better be good.
Dude, I'm coming to, this is real good. I'm coming to New York on Monday. I'm delivering the pitch in person. I just need to help out Compound Media. My goal is for your show to be bigger than The Daily Show, bigger than, what's his name, Bill Maher, whatever his name
Bill
is.
Cosby.
Oh, okay, yeah, whatever, yeah. But we're going to overtake that show, and then, dude, get this. I might be hanging out with Lady Alchemy Sunday or Monday. Depends.
Wow, she's hot. Well, best of luck getting in there. I would just go for a basic courtship with chocolates and flowers and see where it takes you. But thanks for calling, buddy. I like you more than a friend. I think that's all the calls we have time for today. That was a lot of fun talking to you folks. I'm going to have to specify Canada more when I tweet this out.
It Goin.